Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tuning In podcast. Today, I am with my dear friend, former client, fellow projector, and magical human, Breakup Coach Dorothy.
Yes! So
also
exciting.
known as, oh my gosh, she's the best. Also known as Dorothy Johnson. And oh my gosh, how we have found each other has been really amazing. But we'll just give you a quick highlight reel. Is Dorothy, well, she's a Taurus.
Yep.
What's your moon? Do you know your moon and rising?
So my sun and my rising are both Taurus.
Okay.
And then I would say, I think my moon is, I'm really nervous because it's either Virgo or Scorpio.
Okay. Well, you can look that up while I'm continuing to introduce you if you change the tune. But just curious, I think it's fun to do a little labeling. She's a projector. She's a 6'2" self-projected projectors, which we call the SPPs.
Yeah.
And she's so you'll get to hear, she has a beautiful voice and so much clarity and insight comes through her talking it out, which I just told her on the pre-chat that I have 3 notes for this interview. So it's because I know a lot of her magic is going to come through her voice. So we get to listen. And her I guess she's most well known for her business, which is she is Breakup Coach Dorothy. She helps you get over your ex in 3 months or less through building a life that your ex regrets leaving. And she's on Instagram at Breakup Coach Dorothy. And when I first saw you on Instagram, I was like, damn, these are goals, #goals for clarity, niche, and messaging. Things that I've never had.
Yep. I know who exactly I'm talking to. I'm talking to myself at 26 years old, who was completely heartbroken and devastated. So I've always really been clear about that. Luckily, fortunately, I did not have to go through AKA niche drama.
Yes. I know. It's just like, it's such a drama. It's such a drama. Anyone in the business world gets this. And so Dorothy is like goals. She's just very succinct. And I actually would love to hear from you, Dorothy. Give us how about a quick overview, like a story arc of where you started with your business and the energy behind it versus where you are now and the energy that you operate from at this point.
That's fun. I was not expecting to talk about that on today's call. So I am super pumped. I could talk about business all damn day. Okay. So when I first started the business, it was like a fire, like a rolling fire within me. And I think it was, what really happened was at the very beginning, I had a fitness YouTube channel. I was called Bench Babe. So that's good. And so I was doing fitness YouTube videos, kind of like Nikki Blackketter. She was like my inspo. And so when I went through my breakup, it was the ending of a 7-year relationship. And he had moved on very quickly. Little backstory about that. He had moved on really, really quickly. And he was dating a new girl openly about a month later. And we had just gotten a house together and then going to pick up my things. I found out she was staying every night once I left. It was just like this whole drama-filled thing. And I wasn't struggling with just the devastation and the loss and the heartbreak. I was also struggling with a lot of anger and resentment and betrayal about this woman just seemingly coming in and stealing the life that I worked so hard for. So just think of that anger in the background of everything. And I record this YouTube video about it and talk very openly about my breakup experience and what I was doing. And I infused it with fitness and inspiring quotes and all of this stuff. And I Googled how to get over your ex, how to forgive and let go. And I did all of the things. I was getting in the best shape that I could. I was distracting myself. I was staying busy. I was traveling. I was waiting for time to heal. I was meditating, journaling, all of it. And it wasn't really until I found coaching and found thought work around thoughts create feelings from the life coach school, Brooke Castillo, that it really changed the game for me. And so up until that point, this is a year and a half has gone by, and I'm just now realizing and learning that thoughts create feelings. So for a year and a half, people are seeing me go through this breakup journey, and they're like, oh yeah, Dorothy's fine. She's over her ex. From the outside looking in, she's killing it. But inside, I was dying. I was still making decisions based off of what would get his attention. I was seeing repeat patterns in a new relationship that I was in. I was constantly thinking about him still. I was comparing my new relationship. It was a mess. So people were already coming to me being like, what did you do? How did you do that? I'm struggling. What did you do? How did you get through this? And so I could tell that there was a need. And now that I know human design, I know those were them recognizing me and inviting me to share something, right? But at the time, I still didn't feel like adequate enough to say I found the cure. I'm like, here are all the things I've done, but they only get you so far. Makes you look like you're doing good, at least. So if you want to look like you're doing good, here are the things you could do. But then once I found thoughts create feelings, and Brooke Castillo is so great at telling you that you can do anything and you can become a coach. I really just resonated with her, and I felt like she really believed in my ability to become a coach. And so once I started drinking that Kool-Aid of, wow, I could become a coach and I can help people learn that their heartbreak doesn't have to take as long as it took for me. And I can help them learn that it doesn't have to be so painful and that they can create a life that is actually better than the one that they had with their ex. There was like an internal fuel within me because I finally found what I was here to do in this planet. I'm going to cry, but it's like up until that point, I didn't really have a purpose. And I never had this like strong need to serve humanity in any big way or anything. I was like, no, I'm going to be a data analytics consultant, make a lot of money, drive expensive cars, and have expensive things, and probably fuel the corporate industry. Mm-hmm. I don't need to help humans. And then as soon as I got into the coaching and self-help world, I started even taking my data analytics job and being like, well, I guess I'm helping humans in this very small way. Like from this perspective, I'm helping humans, even though I'm really helping corporate America. I'm really helping humans learn this. And so it was this huge like turn and shift. And so the business part, it was fueled by this roaring fire of, I finally found my passion and I'm like off to the races. I am so fucking ready. And I think that that's still there now, but it has become more of a calm, grounded, I know my purpose and we're at peace with it. And almost more stepping into a leader versus like, I'm seeing like the image of like an old Viking running with a fire stick with their people at first.
Yeah. A vendetta, maybe.
Yeah. And we're going to like go burn down all of our exes, like houses and cars, versus to this place of I am now a leader and a guider. And I feel like Khaleesi riding a dragon, and we're all going to like create and form.
So what would you say fuels you now in the work that you're doing?
I think there's still that underlying passion of like, and purpose of, this is what I was here to do. And it lights me the fuck up. Like I'm absolutely obsessed and absorbed in the work that I do. That's what fuels me, is that I get to wake up and literally help the world become a better place, one human at a time. And it's helping them heal their heart in a way where they now get to learn how to take responsibility for their emotions and not be at the effect of everyone else in the world and the collective consciousness, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I just have to plug you really quickly because I've gotten to witness, because we were in a projector playground mastermind together with Lauren Armstrong. Dorothy has also done inner voice facilitator training with Just Lively. That's actually how Dorothy found me. She did a workshop through Just Lively's community that I was leading. And then we ended up in Projector Playground together, like very serendipitous, like how, and now we talk every day in our group text chat. And it's like, okay. But I actually got for the first time to truly witness her in her element when we co-facilitated an offer for Just Lively's program. It was called Break In. And so Dorothy was talking about breaking breakups and using your inner voice. And I got to watch her do her thing, like be in her zone of genius. And I was like floored. So if anybody that's listening has gone through a breakup recently, or in general has trouble with breakups and they feel like they're carrying that into other aspects of their life, like follow Dorothy on Instagram. She's got an awesome 5-day free training, $17 training. And then, excuse me, but it's basically free. In my mind, that's free.
Yes, it's $17 is practically free, especially now with inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
$17 is like 7 cents.
And especially, I have a friend who she messaged me after she did day one. She's like, "Oh my God, like this is amazing." So anyway, just keep her in the forefront of your mind if that's ever something that you're dealing with. She's amazing at that. And do you have anything to add to that before I?
No, I just think it's so funny how we ran into each other. Like because I first saw you did the workshop around decision-making with inner voice. And then I hired you to come into my program to teach my people about decision-making with the inner voice. And then I think it was even that day, like you came in and did that. And then you were on a Projector Playground call. And then I was like, wait, why are you on this call? And Lauren Cash is on this call. Why am I not on? I'm a projector. Like someone forgot about me. I go straight to Lauren Armstrong and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm supposed to be in this group and I know I missed the first call, but I need to be in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so amazing. I was on a walk with John, my husband, today before this call. And I said, "Oh, I have a call with Dorothy. I was just on a call with Lauren." Dorothy, he's like, "You're going to have to because I have another call with another Lauren later." He's like, "You're going to have to specify." And so I actually broke down for him, which I hadn't before, of like how you and Lauren Cash, Elsie, we call her Elsie Cash, how the three of us and Lauren Armstrong, like this very, and how Just like this family tree of how we all have gotten together. And he probably won't remember, but it was fun for me to relive it.
So good.
Yeah. So it's just those type of things, just to remind everyone, is when you're following the flow of life, these type of things are going to happen more often. And it's really been cool because just looking at Dorothy, how our relationship has evolved, I remember, so Dorothy and I worked together. So she hired me for a round of the Insight one-to-one program, but she told me what I was doing before I knew. And I actually was still a little resistant to like being that person. But when I told you at the beginning, I saw her like when she asked me like, "Will you present to my group?" I looked her up and I was like, "She's too fancy for me." Like she's got a niche, she's got people, she's got, tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. And I was like really a little intimidated because, and like Dorothy's the nicest person in the world, but I was a little intimidated. And then we ended up together in Projector Playground and I got to know you. And then we ended up working together. But I had seen you as this person, even through Projector Playground, as like goals. Like I never knew my niche. And every freaking business program, I'm a coach for James Wedmore. I know similar with LCS is like, who are you? What do you do? And who do you do it for? And it was this question I could never answer and desperately wanted an answer for. So when Dorothy invited me to work with her and her inner voice, what did you call me, Dorothy?
Yeah, I needed you to be my emotional clearing coach. I was like, absolutely, Dana, I want you to be my emotional clearing coach. I need you to clear these emotions. I need you to help me release emotion. And I have always seen you that way. Like it's so funny to me because I've always seen you as the emotional clearing coach. And I mean, that's the caveat being when I saw you do inner voice facilitator and decision making, I didn't see you at that point. But then once I was in projector playground with you and I got to see what you were doing and I experienced your energy, I was like, absolutely, that's what you do. You're an emotional clearing coach. You are the queen of emotions. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I was like, well, this is kind of fun. So I like kind of tried it on, and like, but I'm totally crediting you for that, because since then, like, I've finally now, almost a year later, been able to fully embrace that. And I get to look back and see like probably what you saw from the get-go was that, oh, everything was always pointing in that direction. And I will remind y'all, this is one of our magic superpowers of projectors. I'm a projector, Dorothy's a projector, is we see the other so clearly. And then a superpower, a weakness of us projectors is we can be extremely dead blind to ourselves. And so
100%.
when you have other projectors who are your friends, then it's a really magical experience because you get to see yourself through their eyes, which is like the best thing ever.
Yes. Yes. And I also, one thing that I don't know if we want to talk about this today at all, but one thing for you that I also see is there is a rising of awareness around the fact that emotions need to be released. I think that we're all finally starting to get on board. I think there's two different things: releasing the emotion and then also getting comfortable with your ability to handle uncomfortable emotions. And the interesting part is if you are ever in a program, I'm like hesitant to say this, but I also need to say this. Here we go. If you're ever in a program that doesn't release the emotions or that doesn't have some sort of tool to help you relieve emotions or address the central nervous system in any certain way, I would be really curious as to how that works. And I'm only because I've been running a program now for so long, and feeling your feelings has always been in like a very important component of that. But now just taking it to a whole nother level, infusing inner voice and, human design and all the different things in terms of feeling and releasing emotions has been so eye-opening. And so for you, Dana, I love this whole idea of you being involved in other coaches' programs and being like guest coach or just like co-collaborating coach. And that's what I see long-term for Get Over Your Ex is like you're a constant theme within that program of being there to help people through that first pillar of feeling your feelings, because time and time again, I just have people talk about how difficult it is to feel their feelings. And it is. And to be held in that space is a completely different experience than to go through like a self-paced course of here's how to feel your feelings and just go do it. It's so different. You know what I mean?
Yes. And thank you for saying that. And I mean, thank you for the continuous invitations to be able to support your people.
Thank you for doing it.
It's like my dream. It really has been of like, I get to facilitate this work because not everyone wants to deal like as a coach. Like it doesn't have to be your specialty, but it does need to be part of the work, because what I know is, and that touches on what you're saying, Dorothy, is like, yeah, there is a rising awareness about this. And I think with that rising awareness, there is a lag of people who can guide others through that experience.
Who feel comfortable in guiding others through that experience. Like I can absolutely do it. And I do it. And I've been doing it. I think there's just a level my favorite thing to do is like, let's go. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to like get your life looking so good that your ex regrets leaving it. I am so on board with getting you to have this amazing, badass, fucking bomb relationship with yourself, I am so on to all of that stuff that when it comes to feeling feelings, I am there for it and I do it. But to receive the real coaching that I think I thrive in best, you've got to feel those feelings. And so to have the additional support that if my method of feeling feelings isn't working, being able to have Dana come into my environment with my people and do it her way to see if it vibes with the other individuals that might not vibe with the way that I feel feelings. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's so needed. And we're not doing it enough as coaches.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're ahead of the curve. Not surprising. She's a 6'2", people, 6. The role model, the teacher, the see things that none of us see yet. So you having had that in your program since the get-go is really powerful. And I have been in countless programs. And I mean, we're not here to like hate on other programs, but I just know for myself, it was never part of it. And I, as the person in the program, didn't realize it was a problem. And so it's like now we get to look at it through a different lens, and we can see the value in that. And with this whole natural rising awareness of, I don't know if it's like, at least my Instagram, my Discover feed, I see a lot of talk about this now. And I'm like, good, like this needs to be talked about. But I think it's mostly talked about as it relates to trauma.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential for trauma. I mean, it's not my specialty. I have done plenty of work with trauma. It's not my specialty. I'm not a trauma therapist or any of that, but it's important. However, it's also important for the rest of us.
Yes. 100%.
And my mom keeps reminding me, my mom, the manifester, keeps telling me, informing me that she's like, Dana, don't forget, people need the basics.
For real. That's so true. So true.
Thank you, Mom. So it's like one of the things that I'm setting out to do, and it's been so fun, Dorothy. So it's like, yes, so we're talking about everything, but like Dorothy worked with me one-on-one, and then she's then brought me into her program to work with her people, which I just have so much gratitude that you let me hold your people, because I know how important it is for, when you have
my people
program.
Are everything.
They're so special.
Yes.
So, we've worked together and then she's been a peer in a mastermind. So it's like, we've really worked together in like all the capacities and just like friend conversations. In fact, she can see the need from a different perspective. And then we get to collaborate, and I've really gotten to practice my craft with different groups of people beyond just like my one-to-one clients. And so it's helping me really like, okay, what are the basics? Like what are the misconceptions? Where are most people starting from? Because the world I live in, and that we play in isn't, it's not the norm. We'll just say that. It's not the norm. And it's not going to be the norm of a lot of the clients that are coming my way. So to link that back with my mom keeps telling me about the basics is I'm creating, and that's what the emotional edit, this new offer, my first group program in years, is like, let's get the essentials in place so that we can lay the foundation for like a strong, healthy emotional response and regulation. And then from there, you can get more and more advanced and attuned to what's going on. But first, we need the foundations.
Yes. I liked the word regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Become regulated.
Yeah, exactly. And that one has come up recently for me because it's like, so we use the term emotional clearing, but what I remind everyone is we're not actually clearing anything, but we're taking the built up charge and diffusing it so it can reintegrate, because there's a time and place for all of our emotions. And it's like, when you can regulate your emotions, it's different than managing them. And that's like a big distinction that I have, because I also learned about managing my feelings and managing my emotions the way I manage my mind and manage my stress and manage my food intake. Like, it's a very,
You're like, how much more managing do I have to do? Because I can't manage all these things at once.
a lot of work. And so that's where I've come really more of thinking about it from, a nervous system perspective, is we want to be able to regulate our nervous system. It's good to have stress, but when we spike from stress, a regulated nervous system can come back to that calm safety, that green zone. And it's same with our emotions. We can peak and we can have a high, and then we can come back to that neutral place. And I mean, that's what I mean when I say regulation.
Yep. I love it.
So I think it's interesting. So you don't have to get into the details unless you want to, but I think before we worked together, you reached out to me, and
Yes.
you were in an extreme emotional state because you had an extreme experience in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you reach out to me?
I reached out to you about I'd peed on a stick and I was pregnant, right? Yeah. Yep. So I peed on a stick. I was pregnant, and it was the timing was off, you guys. The timing was off because I've always wanted to be pregnant. I want to be a mom. I talk about baby Marilyn as if she's already here, and she's not. I'm not pregnant, right? Like currently in this physical moment that we're recording this, I am not pregnant. And I don't have any living children. And so I had just gotten this dog. I think I got this dog in September. Her name's Tinkerbell. She's a Great Dane. And I had gotten this puppy, and I immediately regretted my decision and was struggling so hardcore with this puppy. It was so difficult for me. At the time I was 32. No, how old am I? Yeah, at the time I was 31. And I was very just set in my ways, very structured, very set in my ways. And so having a dog come in, this puppy at 12 weeks old, she disrupted all of that. And there was additional things on top of it she was just a lot.
And don't worry, y'all, there's more on that I'm going to ask Dorothy questions about. So stay tuned, because there's more.
So good. So anyways, I got this dog. And so in September, I'm like, okay, we got this dog. It was very much showing me and testing me of I don't even know if I want to be a mom. If this is what being a mom is like, absolutely not. I don't want a child. This is dumb. I don't know why I was thinking I wanted to be pregnant, because up until that point, I was trying to actively get pregnant, tracking my period, doing all this stuff. And I wanted to be pregnant. I wanted to be a mom. And after I got Tinkerbell, I keep calling her the dog, but you guys, I genuinely love her, Tinkerbell. I was like, no, we don't need to get pregnant right now. I don't want to be pregnant. Absolutely not. And so, of course, as soon as I let go of all of it and being I don't want a baby, the universe is like, here's a baby. So the dog happened in September, late September, and I got pregnant early November. And so I get this pregnancy test, and I just had so much emotion come up, and I was a hot mess. But I called you because I was like, you can handle this hot mess of an emotion. And I was terrified of all of the judgment that comes along with the things that were going on with the mind. And I also felt like a decision had to be made. And I was like, you're going to help me make the decision, because you can help me tap into my inner voice so that I can hear what the inner voice is thinking and why this is all happening right now. And because that was another question. I was like, why is this happening now after I just got this dog and don't even know if I can handle the dog, let alone a baby?
Yeah. And what did your inner voice say? I remember if you don't.
I was like, oh, shoot, I don't remember. I remember a plethora of things that my voice said, but I don't remember why it was at the same time.
It was really powerful because I got to hold neutral, compassionate stillness for Dorothy so that she could first break down in a really safe way. And that was first really important to just like the volcano first sometimes need to erupt. And then from that initial burst, she could settle a little. Then we talked to the mind, right? Like letting the mind, all of its worries, what decision had to, like your whole life was on the hook according to the mind with like this decision had to be made like now.
Yeah.
Like you gave yourself like 2 days. It was like very, very intense. And then, like fears, worries, what if this is my only chance? Like all these things. So we asked the inner voice, we're like, inner voice, maybe this was the time, but why was Dorothy pregnant? And the inner voice said, because we want her to know how easily things can come into her life.
Things simply happen. Now I'm remembering. Yes. Things will just happen. They just happen and it's super easy and they just appear, which was so true because so many things just appeared. The dog just appeared. That wasn't even on my vision. I didn't need a vision board. I didn't need an attention. The dog just appeared. The baby just appeared. And then multiple other things just appeared.
Yeah. And then the inner voice essentially said, she doesn't need to make a decision.
Yes, because the body was going to make the decision. So my body made the decision.
How did you feel? Like, what was the shift?
Oh, yeah, I felt super calm because a lot of what the worries were with like needing to make a decision, feeling guilty and bad about even thinking that this was a decision because the whole time I've wanted a baby. Never once was I ever thinking that I didn't want the child, except for like the month after having a dog being like, oh, in October, being like, maybe I can't be it. And the only reason I was thinking I don't want a child was because I was thinking in the back around, I'm not going to be a good mom. If I can't handle a dog, I'm not going to be a good mom. But if that wasn't in there, then I would have been immediately ecstatic about being pregnant, I think. And so after that call, I felt much more calm and then was able to have the conversation with my fiance, Jake, and the other people that I wanted to talk about, which I told everybody that I was pregnant. Because at that point, then I was excited. Then I got excited of like, oh my God, this is actually happening. I'm so excited. I'm having a baby. I started envisioning being like actually pregnant because obviously you don't show after like 2 days of being pregnant. I was already taking pictures of my belly and I was like trying to stick it out, being like, this is what I'm going to look like.
And then another turn of events.
Yep. So then I started spotting and then I really worried about it because the spotting wouldn't stop. And so then I went to the doctor and the doctor said that it was this is actually such a longer story. The doctor said it was a chemical pregnancy. And so then if you guys don't know what a chemical pregnancy is, that's where like the egg and the sperm meet, but doesn't attach anywhere. So the body's producing the hormone level that says you're pregnant. And so if you pee on a stick, it looks like you're pregnant, but it doesn't actually attach. So then after a couple of days, you'll get your period and then you'll no longer test positive on a strip. Well, when I went to the doctor, I tested positive still, but they said it was a faint line. And so that hormone level, they didn't think would be very high. And so they're like, we think it's a chemical pregnancy. If you want to, go get your blood drawn and that will just confirm it. And at that point, I'm like crying in the office. I've had like a really poor experience with the doctor. I'm mad, I'm angry. And Jake was like, I still think you should go get your blood drawn. And I'm like, I don't see the point. I'm not pregnant. Like, what's the point of getting my blood drawn? Like, this is dumb. We don't need to do it. And he's like, well, it's on the way home. Can we just stop? And if they can take you at that moment, will you do it just for me? And I said, sure. And so we do that. We get the blood drawn. And then 3 days later, the blood work comes back and it's in the like 500 to 600 level, which isn't super high for like a full term pregnancy. Like that number continues to go up the more pregnant you get. well, the further into your pregnancy you are. And then, but it was still way too high for a chemical pregnancy. So then the doctor calls me back and she's like, we've made a mistake. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. They fucking missed it. They just fucking missed it. Like there's a baby there and they missed it with their little machine, little wand thing. They fucked up. I'm actually pregnant. I knew I was pregnant. And that was one of the problems that I had with the doctor was that I was being told that I wasn't actually pregnant. And I'm like, my body is pregnant. Like,
yeah, your body knew.
Yeah. And so we go back to the doctor. And so now I'm on this high again, right? Where I'm like, I'm pregnant. This is great. You guys fucked up. You just missed it. And so we get in there and she's doing the ultrasound and we still don't see anything in the uterus. And we're like, where is it? It's not in the uterus. Like, like it must just be really small, you guys, and you need a better tool. But then that's when they confirmed that it was an ectopic pregnancy, which means it's in your fallopian tube, which is in, there's a word, like a more professional word for this, but you can't have a baby in your fallopian tube because the baby would grow there and then your fallopian tube bursts. So then I went through the whole roller coaster of feeling all of the down emotions as well, again, for getting my hopes up again, thinking that it could work out. And then, yeah, realizing that it wasn't going to. And then you have to go through a whole process of an injection of a drug that's kind of, I can't think of the name of it, but it's kind of like chemo. And it will dissolve anything that's left in your fallopian tube because my body was already working on it, realizing that something wasn't right. And so that's why I started bleeding and trying to emit everything. And then it took me a really long time for my body what felt like a really long time for my body to get back to regular. So I went like 2 months without a period. And then I started my period in the middle of a full moon and a new moon, which normally I was used to bleeding with the new moon. And so now I'm like fully back on the cycle, and every full moon on the dot, it starts and everything's back to normal. But it took a while.
Yeah. And it was like, yeah, it was high highs and low lows. And I think that was a really beautiful time to be able to support you. Because what happens is when there's that much emotional charge, like, we're talking about, birthing a new life, something that you've wanted for so long, when there's that much emotional charge, here's the deal. It's really hard to hear beyond the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the thing with what we would call the emotional beanbags, these charges, is that they are like a layer of protection that keeps you from being able to access that calm, clear inner voice inside of you. And so to be able to be supported in that, it was like you kept being able to come back to your truth. And so whereas the mind, was carrying a lot of drama and fear and sadness, which is absolutely fine. That's the mind gets to have that. You got to come to those calls and process that. And then come back to your inner voice, which would say things like, we just wanted to show you how quickly things could come. This is your body's decision. It's not your mind's decision. It also reinforced that, like, because the mind was afraid, what if I can't have a baby now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And inner voice is like, you'll have you'll have all the anything you want.
All the things that you want, they're still going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to stop anything. Yeah.
And it's very, I just think it's so soothing and nurturing in a way that, yes, other people can comfort us. But like for you, Dorothy, you have an amazing community of people. Why was it helpful and important to have the support from your, like this clearing and the support from your own inner voice during this time?
Yeah, because I want to be guided by my inner voice at all times. That's just kind of like a place I'm at in my life now, is that I always want to be making aligned decisions, and I want to be guided by my inner voice. Honestly, because the inner voice is nicer, to be really quite frank. But the inner voice just gives a different perspective it gives the zoomed out perspective, right? It's giving the perspective of the soul. I am totally on board with souls and multiple lives, and I have been for a really long time now. And the inner voice is direct access to that information, and the information of something so much bigger that I can't see. And so I would much rather be spending my time talking to the inner voice than I do the mind. I love the mind, and the mind has been so great in like doing amazing things for me. But when it came to emotional clearing, the mind just wanted to it wanted to beat me up about the past and worry about the future, versus the inner voice could sit here in the present moment and console me in a time that I really needed the support.
I have to say, like, for me, whose specialty is emotions, like, Dorothy is the most fun client in the world, because like every time we got to talk, there was like this new drama.
Yeah. This is so true though. I have such like high highs and such low lows. And one day I'll be like crying and devastated and the world is ending. And the next day I'm like, I'm having the best day ever.
It's like the regulation is, it's as important to be able to hold the highs as it is to be able to hold the lows.
Yeah.
And so, getting and not having to overly identify with either. So like I got to see you in all of them. And it was, I still look back at your last year and am in awe of all the shit that's fucking blown up.
I know.
And that pregnant. So Tinkerbell, we call her Tink. She was the start. It was that September.
She was the catalyst.
She was the catalyst. And we alluded to this earlier because then we had the pregnancy, that ectopic pregnancy. Okay. Then we're back to like regular life drama with Tink, which was enough for like a whole schoolyard.
Yeah.
And you spoke to this. What are some of the struggles the mind has had as it relates to Tinkerbell, like leading up to where you are now, which is a lot of peace with her?
Yeah. So let me just start with, she bit my roommate's face to the point where my roommate had to go to the hospital. Like I'm laughing now, but it was not funny at the time.
Mm-hmm. I remember that session.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it was because she had been training with an e-collar. So we had a trainer that did e-collar work. So the electric shock collar, and she was a puppy, and she's a very sensitive dog. So she had gotten e-collar training earlier that day, and the man over-shocked her, and I think completely stressed her out. And then she had literally in that same day, she threw up 9 times in my house. And then she had her ripped off toenail, and she finally laid down and finally fell asleep. And my roommate happened to come by and got down on her level and started petting her while she was sleeping and touched her toe that had been ripped off. And so Tinkerbell got scared, woke up, and her immediate response was to bite at whoever was hurting her paw, right? So it was a complete accident, but obviously also 110% not acceptable to the human mind. Went to the hospital, took care of her, all of that. And then after that moment, it was really a struggle for me because I've never dealt with a dog that's done something like that. I grew up with huskies and we did dog sledding, but they weren't house dogs. They were worker dogs.
Yes, Dorothy grew up dog sledding huskies, just like another element of her life and story.
So then I'm used to that, and I'm used to being around dogs. And then I had one other dog, which was a Doberman in my adult life. And she was docile and never hurt a fly and super calm natured. And so I was really terrified in that moment because I was like, what do you do in this moment? And everyone's calling her aggressive. And I've got a vet telling me that I have to put her down and all of this stuff. And luckily I was able to find Northwest Florida Great Dane Rescue, and they were just an amazing tool and amazing help for me. I found someone who was like working with them. And so me getting used to the breed, understanding the breed better, finding a trainer who works specifically with aggressive breeds, everything changed and everything is amazing now. But it was a really, like, I was making it mean so much about myself. I was making it mean that I was a terrible owner, that I don't have my shit together, that I can't be a human mom if literally, like, what if my child ends up eating people's faces? Like, I can't do that. And I was projecting all kinds of shit into my future. I was saying that I couldn't be a mom when I really, truly, authentically wanted to be a mom, all because of this dog. And oh, it had so much like drama. Like, even just talking about it now, I feel it like rising and coming up again. It was one of like the hardest times of my life, to be quite honest. I felt so terrible, and at the same time wished it wouldn't have happened. And there was a part of me that was like, do I rehome her? Do I put her down? I don't know what else to do at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really hard. And it's like, I think it's important to hear this because like, this is life, you know? And immediately what happened was mind gets involved. It tells stories. Other minds were telling Dorothy what is right and wrong. And Tink gets labeled.
Mm-hmm.
She was labeled. And I remember us talking about this and like talking to the inner voice about this, because like it was scary all around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not something you wanted to have happen again. But I think one thing that was really good, if my timeline is accurate, is we'd been working with your inner voice in Tinkerbell for a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we were able to come back, and it was
because she had gotten bitten. So Tink got bitten before this other incident happened. And so she had gotten bitten. She was on antibiotics, and then she was on antibiotics for her foot. Then she got bit, had to go back on antibiotics. And the problem with her antibiotics is she couldn't go to like daycare. She couldn't be around other dogs because they knew and they would pick on her. And I didn't want to spark any more like nature of her getting like guarding anything. And so, yeah. Mm-hmm. I forgot about this, but yeah.
Well, and it's really important because it's like, again, in like a high stress, high drama situation, like the more you've had access to getting back to that calm space within, the more quickly you can get to the truth. That's like a capital T truth. Mm-hmm. And so we dropped in, and inner voice was like, Tink is not aggressive. This is not a problem. And you got to this really beautiful place, I remember, of compassion. And I'm like, you know, poor Tink, like she's a dog. She's acting on instinct. And now she's in trouble. She's a bad dog. Her badness is getting projected into the future. Now she's a bad, aggressive dog. And like, it doesn't honor her journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, when you came to completion to this, a couple things came through. And can I share?
Yes.
And if you remember as well, but a couple things were like, you want to be a well-trained human.
Mm-hmm.
That includes being at peace, gentle, calm, patient with unconditional love for Tinkerbell. Yep. And we also asked, I mean, these are the deal, guys. Like, we ask the hard hitter questions with inner voice, like, should she get rid of Tink? Like, should she rehome her? Should she put her down? Like, we have to ask those questions for the mind. And it was like very clear. Inner voice is no judgment. Yeah. It's like, there's no right or wrong. It could have said yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it said, absolutely not. Tink is here as
my fairy godmother.
Her fairy godmother.
I am pretty sure that Tink is a very old soul who has been around the block way longer than I have been. I think she knows way more than I do. And she's so more I think she's even more intuitive and even more sensitive than I am on so many levels. Things to this day happen where she knows something that I don't know. And And I don't find out until later. And then I'm like, that's why she's being the way she's being. That's why she's doing what she's doing. And it's absolutely insane.
I feel like a big part of us working together was for your relationship with Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
So she can be your guide and she's showing you because at the very beginning, she was challenging you with time, money.
Yep.
Right? Two big things. Wow. And then all of these like really big things have happened with her. And one of the things your inner voice that I'm reading from our notes is the more unexpected, crazy shit that happens, the more it's preparing Dorothy for something bigger and better that she couldn't expect or plan for. And Tink can be the catalyst for that.
And she was.
Yeah.
She was the catalyst. Yeah, because at that same, all of that was also happening at the same time because the whole incident with my roommate happened. And then I got engaged quickly after.
Yeah. And we worked through that.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's like you've had just like this skyrocketing year. And I'm going to read another quote about Tinkerbell.
Yes.
We asked about Tinkerbell like all the time, but inner voice said, she's great. She's perfect. She's the catalyst to all things Dorothy needed to work on, but wasn't. Anything that Dorothy needs to work on will show up through Tink. She is showing her all of the lessons. Every lesson is the opposite of what the mind wants to deal with.
And it is like, even today, just today, she'll interrupt me when she knows, like I'm on calls all day and I'm like, why did I schedule calls all day? And she's coming in here interrupting, knowing that I'm not supposed to be on calls all day. And it's just so wild. It's absolutely wild.
So with that, like how, as you've deepened this relationship with Tink, who is, by the way, a reflector for anyone in human design, which is so good. But like, as you've deepened your relationship with yourself, with your own inner voice, with your ability to ride your own emotional waves, because as a reflector, Tink responds she's so sensitive, like your energy. That's why it came through about being a well-trained human, because your energy matters to her. So how has your relationship with her evolved? How has your experience and your view of her evolved over, the year that you've had her?
So much. I think learning to have slowness and patience and compassion has changed everything. And I also stopped taking everything so personally. And she's an animal and she's not a direct representation of me. And I think I had to like disassociate the two of saying, she's an animal and she's going to do all kinds of animal things. And there's things that I can do to help her learn how I want her to show up. But at the same time, she's going to show up exactly the way that she needs to. And then I don't have to take responsibility for how she's showing up in that way. Meaning like, if something happens, yes, I will take responsibility for it in a way that I have to as a human owning an animal. But it's not a direct reflection of me being a poor trainer. I have absolutely gone above and beyond. Like I know in my bones, I have gone above and beyond in my ability to help her. I work for a Great Dane rescue now where I am literally with them every week, learning how to interact with Great Danes who have temperament problems. I have spent all the money that is possibly available to have trainers and helpers and have her around other dogs. And I just know for certain that I've done anything and everything that I possibly can. And I've seen her show up really well. I mean, even Elsie and her partner were visiting this weekend and she did amazing. And it was such a great experience of seeing how far she's come and being able to interact with other people and being calm and learning not to jump and all the things. And so my relationship with her is just deeper and more patient. And now I actually think I'm a better mother because I've had the ability to grow and change and shape with her, if that makes sense.
And has your trust in her shifted as well?
Oh, 100%. My trust in her has shifted and my trust in myself has shifted. Being able to feel really confident in my ability to handle whatever happens with her. I'm like, she's here. And whatever happens, we're here to handle it. And I've done everything that I can, and I continue to do everything that I can to make sure that things go seamlessly. And also knowing that they probably won't always go seamlessly and it will still be okay. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely do. I think that's so beautiful. Just one, well, I have two final questions. One just to touch on, because I mean, Dorothy, you have so many, we might break this into 2 episodes because it's just, there's so many beautiful things that I just feel like since I have you, we should talk about them, because I think it's important for everyone to hear like what it really means to, I mean, live in life. And, so much of this happened when we were working together. You had your own lessons and your own experiences and, other supports around you. But I think it's really powerful to witness those transformations, because another big thing, so some of your mind's kind of chew toys, right? Where, our typical mind's chew toys, time and money. And then we had Tinkerbell. And then we had decision making. And all of those kind of tied into the final thing, like one of the final things that happened on our final calls, which was your inner voice invited you to do an experiment. And what was that?
The Marshmallow Experiment. Eek, so good. Oh, I love the Marshmallow Experiment because that was also tied with decision making, is allowing my inner voice to make all of the decisions for an entire month. And really, it was guided through marshmallowy vibes. So things that, like, if it smelt or felt or looked like a marshmallow, we were doing it. We were noticing it and being like moving towards that vibration.
And what kind of decisions did you make in that time period?
I feel like there were so many. It happened so long ago. I don't remember though, Dana. Do you have any of them? I'm like, so many of
one. I mean, like little. So we can go little or big. We've seen some big ways that Dorothy has embodied this, but little ways was like deciding what drink or if to get a drink on the menu.
Yeah. Yep. So drinking. Yeah, absolutely. So if I was going to drink, and then what drinks would I get on the menu? And it didn't mean they had to have marshmallow in them, because I think it was like, I don't know if it was summertime when we were doing that.
It was warm, but you're in Florida.
This is true. So it's kind of always warm, but yeah, it was about that. It was about where I'd want to sit in the house. Sometimes it was about what I wanted to wear. Mm-hmm. I didn't look like a marshmallow, everyone, just to be clear. But
except for that one puffy jacket. That's the red one.
I have so many of those puffy jackets. They're my favorites. But yeah. And then even, I mean, that goes, business. I think I bought that jacket when because buying things, I was like, this is totally marshmallow vibes. Mm-hmm. And then of course, absolutely in business, what feels like a marshmallowy vibe for my call schedule or. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's why marshmallow? Like why, like these are things that happen, y'all, in our sessions. Like we just go anywhere and everywhere. And it's like so often what the inner voice will do is guide you towards something that the mind couldn't have created on its own because it doesn't make sense. And I think that's why it's so powerful, because sometimes the less sense it makes, the more the mind can get on board, because the mind's like, whatever, you weirdo, fine, play with marshmallows for a month.
Right.
And it almost gives you, right, and you have like a timeline.
And it gives you permission. But the mind, because the mind is like, no, we should be moving towards health and wellness, right? That's what it would, like, if it could have chosen anything. It's like, we need to be healthy, we need to be well, and we need to be fit. Versus this was, And the marshmallow actually comes from like a vision I have of my bedroom in the house that I was living in before I got engaged and moved in with my fiance, where when you walk in the room, my fiance had built a bed frame that's like a low platform bed frame, handmade like with wood. And then I have this beautiful mattress, king size mattress on the top of it with a white down comforter and like a toasted marshmallow color, like blanket that goes over the top. So like the whole, and then the walls were like this beige color with wood furniture accents. So the whole vibe of it to me was like toasted marshmallows. And then I have those twinkle lights, like you're at a campfire. And it's like one of my favorite things to be at a campfire, having toasted marshmallows, drinking hot chocolate. Like that vibe is a vibe that I love. And I even like the smell of toasted marshmallow perfume. Like, so, or maybe it's not perfume, but it's candles from like Bath and Body Works or something. So that's kind of where I think the inner voice was going was, oh, we know what this is like and we like this. We want to move closer and closer to this. And it found itself describing a lot of things like marshmallows.
Yeah. And because I think this is important where it's different from the mind is that's like, it's a vibe. It's a sensation, like it's a full, that was the difference. It's a full body experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think when we're working so often, we're operating from the mind and we're operating from charged emotions and triggers. It's like, it's very, it's very literal. And
even when you
rigid.
don't have charges, like even if you don't have a strong emotional charge and you're just trying to learn how to drop into your inner voice and listen, if you were to hear Marshmallow Experiment and you're like, fuck, okay, cool. So like this starts with an M, so marshmallow maybe, or like this sounds like marshmallow, so it must be marshmallow. And you start getting very like logical with it, that you're doing it wrong. Like it's a full body. For me, it was marshmallow vibe. It's a full body sensation versus for you, it might be like watermelon lemon or like something else that is just a full body sensation for you that feels good.
Yeah, it's so helpful for decision making. It eliminated one of your big things was, making the right decision. It eliminated the thinking mind of pros and cons, right and wrong, because it was like you can't fake that feeling, whereas you can fake a right decision. You can talk yourself in or out of a decision.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that's what's so beautiful is it reminds you, like your inner voice, when you're doing this type of work, it's always going to bring you back to your body because that is part of the experience. And we operate so much from the mind that we forget that we have like our intuition, it lives in our body and we have to feel it.
Yep.
Versus deciding isn't even a thing. It's a knowing.
Oh, I love that. Deciding isn't even a thing. It's a knowing. That needs to be like made up into a cute little graphic and posted on Instagram.
Okay, we'll write it. Deciding isn't a thing. It's knowing. So speaking of that, I don't know if you remember this, and then I'll leave you be. When we started working together, did you decide to work with me or was it a knowing?
It was a knowing, 100%.
Yeah. And I think it's so funny, like when I have this new offer and I'm like, listen, let me just like, I don't particularly want to write a bunch of copy to convince anyone to join. Like, if you need this.
And then it's kind of interesting that you say that because that's absolutely true. And then your brain wants to make it a decision or your brain wants to go into, do I do this? Do I not do this? Do I do this? Do I not do this? So fascinating.
Yeah. And so it's like, what if we play with letting the body decide? Of course, in the program I'm going to show more of that. And when I do any one-to-one work, it's like, that's like a big part of it. But because what do we say? I don't fuck with the mind. I mean, I can play in the mind's playground. Like we can totally play there a little bit, but it's like, it's just to me, I'm like, nope, next, like, let's go in. But Dorothy, do you remember when we started working together, you said to me, this is the first coaching I've ever invested in that isn't for my business.
100% though. 100%. And I think in the beginning, like I had hired a coach to help me with money, but still it was money and like just the masculine. This was very feminine and something completely outside, like, oh, I'm just investing in me as a person, not me as Breakup Coach Dorothy, which was very juicy and interesting for me.
Woohoo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But did it help your business in the end?
Oh, absolutely. 110%. In so many ways, it's still helping my business because you still come in and help my people.
It's so much. I like to tell people that because I actually had spent, well, I don't know, equal times maybe in my past of I was very comfortable investing in programs that are just for me, not the business.
Oh, wow.
Like teacher training, Ayurvedic stuff, like really mostly everything I invested in was like just for myself. And I'm like, oh, I guess I should do this for my business to learn things. So it was fun. Like I'd rather just invest in me. But of course, as we get older and wiser, we learn that every time we're investing in ourselves, it's going to ripple out into not just your business or your work, but your relationship, your partnership, your home life, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love that. But that's one of my favorite quotes from you. And you just reminded me, that was another thing. And then we could just go on and on.
We could go on forever.
Your inner voice had you pay off all of your student loans.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. How is that something that I forgot? It was like 50 grand. It was over 50 grand. That's so wild. How did I forget about that?
I mean, it's been a big year, so that's like maybe didn't feel so much. But remember, it had you, your mind was having money drama, and your inner voice was like, pay off your and the next you did it like that afternoon. You sent me the screenshot, and all of a sudden you had cleared your debt totally
because things just happen. That was so fun. Yes, I cleared off my debt in an afternoon. I was like, okay, that debt's been there for a while. We should just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So crazy.
We could do a whole episode if you want Dorothy to come back. We did a lot of work with her inner voice and money and got some really juicy wisdom.
Yes. I would love to chat about money. We should I would so be on board to do that.
Okay. We'll do another call on that, and we'll just like jam out about that a little bit more. Because I think there's a lot of lessons. I learned a lot just by like holding that space, through your inner voice. Okay. Thank you for listening. Dorothy, thank you for being here. I think it's really valuable and was important to just for everyone to see the full freaking spectrum that you've gone through, all the things that we were able to process together.
Oh my God, there's even like so much more. It feels like there's so much more. We just scratched the surface.
We just scratched the surface. But these are fun stories. Dorothy is an amazing storyteller. So I know this episode was also just like entertaining and it's like, tell me what's next.
Yes.
But is there anything else that's floating around that you want to move through before you?
I guess the only thing that I want to make sure that everyone hears, if you've not done an inner voice session with Dana, and I don't know if you do sessions or not, but I think it's really important. I think that if you've never experienced it, it's one of like the best gifts you could give yourself. Learning how to access your inner voice. And when I say learning how to access your inner voice, the best way to learn is to experience it. And the easiest way to experience it is to hire a professional to come in and help you experience it so that you know for certain I don't want to say you're doing it right, but like, for certain it's happening. Because I think That's one of the biggest things that people who have never had an inner voice session before struggle with the most is this the inner voice or is it my mind? And or I think the second thing that with that is you're experiencing a lot of emotion and the emotion is blocking you from accessing the inner voice. And that's literally what Dana does. Dana is an expert, and I'm sure you're seeing it because you're listening to her podcast, but I've worked with so many coaches on so many different calibers at this point, and Dana is the best of the best when it comes to emotions. And if you can get on her calendar, please get on her calendar. That's all I have to say.
I love you. I'm getting chills in my body.
I love you, Boo. And thank you so much for having me on. I am absolutely honored to be on your podcast and so, so grateful to have worked with you and to continue working with you.
Thank you. Mwah. And everyone go follow Dorothy at Breakup Coach Dorothy on Instagram. And if you want to get over your ex in 3 months or less, go
build a life. Your ex regrets leaving. Let's do it, Boo. I'm ready.
Hell yeah. And get her 5-day. I'm going to link her. Is that okay? Can I link your 5-day $17? It's just like, it's too good. It's too good not to have access to. And if you have a friend who's broken up, like just, I only send people to you now.
Oh.
So amazing. Thank you, everyone. And Dorothy, we'll probably have you back because you're too good at all the storytelling.
So fun. We have to do it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans or find me on my website at alignful.com.